Hi, kindergartners. Welcome back to Chapter 8 of The Wizard of Oz. We left off in Chapter 7 with all of our comrades, or friends, as we call them, the main characters, all waiting for the Tin Man to make a raft to cross the river. Remember, they're on their journey on the Yellow Brick Road, and all of a sudden there's this river and they need to get back onto the Yellow Brick Road. So they're going to have to cross it. So of course the Tin Woodman has his axe and he can easily chop down trees to make a raft for them to float across. So that's where we are. And this is called Chapter 8, The Deadly Poppy Field. So here is a great picture of our four main characters. There's Dorothy, and of course the Scarecrow, and the Tin Woodsman, and the Cowardly Lion. And remember, they're all on their way to the Emerald City to meet the Wizard of Oz and ask him for different things. Dorothy, of course, wants to, go home. The Scarecrow wants brains, good job. The Tin Woodman wants a heart. And then, of course, the Cowardly Lion would like to get courage and bravery. All right. Our little party of travelers awakened next morning, refreshed and full of hope. And Dorothy breakfasted like a princess off peaches and plums from the trees beside the river. Behind them was a dark forest that they had passed safely through, although they had suffered many discouragements. But before them was a lovely sunny country that seemed to beckon them on to the Emerald City. To be sure, the broad river now cut them off from this beautiful land, but the raft was nearly done, and after the Tin Woodman had cut a few more logs and fastened them together with wooden pins, they were ready to start. Dorothy sat down in the middle of the raft and held Toto in her arms. Where's my Toto? Hold Toto in my arms, just like Dorothy. When the Cowardly Lion stepped upon the raft, it tipped badly, for he was big and heavy. But the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman stood on the other end to steady it, and they had long poles in their hands to push the raft through the water. They got along quite well at first, but when they reached the middle of the river, the swift current swept the raft downstream, farther and farther away from the road of yellow brick, and the water grew so deep that the long poles would not touch the bottom. "Oh, this is bad," said the Tin Woodman, "for if we cannot get to the land, we shall be carried into the country of the Wicked Witch of the West." It's right here on your map. "And she'll enchant us and make us her slaves." "Oh, then I shall get no brains," said the Scarecrow. "And I shall get no courage," said the Cowardly Lion. "And I should get no heart," said the Tin Woodman. "Oh, and I should never get back to Kansas," said Dorothy. "We must certainly get to the Emerald City if we can," the Scarecrow continued, and he pushed so hard on his long pole that it stuck fast in the mud at the bottom of the river. And before he could pull it out again or let go, the raft was swept away, and the poor Scarecrow was left clinging to the pole in the middle of the river. "Goodbye," he called after them. They were very sorry to leave him, and indeed the Tin Woodman began to cry. But fortunately, he remembered that he might rust, so he dried his tears on Dorothy's apron. Did you hear that? So the Tin Woodman began to cry because he was so sad that the Scarecrow was left in the river. Now, doesn't that sound like he has a heart and some feelings? I think so. Of course, this was a very bad thing for the Scarecrow. "Well, now I am worse off than when I first met Dorothy," he thought. "Then I was stuck on a pole in a cornfield where I could make believe scare the crows, at any rate. But surely there's no use for a Scarecrow stuck on a pole in the middle of a river. Oh, I'm afraid I shall never have any brains at all." Down the stream the raft floated, and the poor Scarecrow was left far behind. Then the Lion said, "Something must be done to save us. I think I can swim to shore and pull the raft after me, if you'll only hold fast to the tip of my tail. That shows bravery, right? That shows courage. He's going to jump out into the river and swim and pull them all in. They were all tired. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So he sprang into the water, and the Tin Woodman caught fast hold of his tail. When the lion began to swim through with all of his might toward the shore. It was hard work, although he was so big, but by and by they were drawn out of the current, and then Dorothy took the Tin Woodman's long pole and helped push the raft to the land. They were all tired out when they reached the shore at last and stepped upon the pretty green grass. And they also knew that the stream had carried them a long way past the road of brick that led to the Emerald City. "Well, what shall we do now?" asked the Tin Woodman, as the lion lay down on the grass to let the sun dry him. "Well, we must get back to the road in some way," said Dorothy. "The best plan will be to walk along the riverbank until we come to the road again." So when they were rested, Dorothy picked up her basket and they started along the grassy bank, back to the road from which the river had carried them. And here we have a big problem. The Scarecrow is now stuck on a pole. Not in a cornfield, but in the middle of a river. There he is. I love the Scarecrow. It was a lovely country, with plenty of flowers and fruit trees and sunshine to cheer them on. Had they not felt so sorry for the poor Scarecrow, they would have been very happy. They walked along as fast as they could, Dorothy only stopping once to pick a beautiful flower. And after a time, the Tin Woodman cried out, "Look!" They all looked at the river and saw the Scarecrow perched upon his pole in the middle of the water, looking very lonely and sad. "Oh, what can we do to save him?" asked Dorothy. The Lion and the Woodman both shook their heads, for they did not know. So they sat down upon a bank and gazed wistfully at the Scarecrow until a stork flew by, which, seeing them, stopped to rest at the water's edge. "Who are you, and where are you going?" asked the stork. "Well, I am Dorothy," answered the girl, "and these are my friends, the Tin Woodman, the Cowardly Lion, and, well, we're going to the Emerald City." "This isn't the road," said the stork as she twisted her long neck and looked sharply at the strange party. A stork is a bird. "Well, I know it," Dorothy said, "but we've lost the Scarecrow and we're wondering how we shall ever get him back again." "Where is he?" asked the stork. "He's over there in the river," answered Dorothy. "If he wasn't so big and heavy, I would get him for you," remarked the stork. "Oh, he isn't heavy a bit," said Dorothy eagerly. "He's just stuffed with straw. Oh, and if you bring him back to us, we shall thank you ever, ever so much." "Well, I'll try," said the stork. "But if I find he is too heavy to carry, I shall drop him in the river again." So the big bird flew into the air and over the water till she came to where the Scarecrow was perched upon his pole. Then the stork, with her great claws, grabbed the Scarecrow by the arm and carried him up into the air and back to the bank, where Dorothy and the Lion and the Tin Woodman and Toto were sitting. When the Scarecrow found himself among his friends again, he was so happy that he hugged them all, even the Lion and Toto. And as they walked along, he sang, "Tolderedio, Tolderedio." He felt so happy. "Oh, I was afraid I should have to stay in that river forever," he said. "But that kind stork saved me, and if I ever get brains, I shall find that stork again and do some kindness in return." "That's all right," said the stork, who was flying along beside them. "I always like to help anyone in trouble, but I must go now, for my babies are waiting in the nest for me. Hope you find the Emerald City, and Oz will help you." "Thank you," replied Dorothy, and then the kind stork flew into the air and was out of sight. They walked along listening to the singing of the bright-colored birds and looking at the lovely flowers, which now became so thick that the ground was carpeted in them. There were big yellow and white and blue and purple blossoms, besides great clusters of scarlet red poppies, which were so brilliant in color they almost dazzled Dorothy's eyes. "Oh, aren't these beautiful?" the girl asked as she breathed in the spicy scent of the flowers. I suppose so," answered the Scarecrow. "When I have brains, I think I shall like them better." "Oh, if I only had a heart, I would love them," added the Tin Woodman. "I always did like flowers," said the Lion. "They seem so helpless and frail, but there are none in the forest so bright as these." They now came upon more and more of the big scarlet poppies and fewer of the other flowers, and soon they found themselves in the midst of a great meadow of poppies. Now it is well known that when there are many of these flowers together, their smell and odor is so powerful that anyone who breathes them falls asleep. And if the sleeper is not carried away from the scent of the flowers, they'll sleep on and on forever. Dorothy, of course, did not know this, nor could she get away from the bright red flowers that were everywhere about. So presently her eyes grew heavy, and she felt that she must sit down to rest and sleep. But the Tin Woodman would not let her do this. "Oh, we must hurry and get back to the road of yellow brick before dark," he said. And the Scarecrow agreed with him. So they kept walking until Dorothy could stand no longer. Her eyes closed in spite of herself, and she forgot where she was and fell among the poppies, fast asleep. "What shall we do?" asked the Tin Woodman. "Well, if we leave her here, she'll die," said the Lion. "Oh, the smell of the flowers is killing us all. I myself can scarcely keep my eyes open, and the dog is asleep already." It was true. Toto had fallen down beside his little mistress, sound asleep. But the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman, who were not made of human flesh, weren't troubled by the scent of the flowers. "Run fast," said the Scarecrow to the Lion. "Get out of this deadly flower bed as soon as you can. We'll bring the little girl with us, but if you happen to fall asleep, you're too big for us to carry." So the Lion aroused himself and bounded forward as fast as he could go. In a moment, he was out of sight. "Well, now let's make a chair with our hands and carry her," said the Scarecrow. So they picked up Toto and put the dog in Dorothy's lap, and then they made a chair with their hands for the seat and their arms for the arms, and they carried the sleeping girl between them through the flowers. So this is what the poppy field looks like. And it's a well-known fact in the story that if you smell the flowers, they make you sleep on and on and on forever. Now, of course, the Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow aren't real. They don't have a heart and a brain and all the things that we have as humans, or even that the lion has as an animal. So, of course, Dorothy, Toto, and the lion are all being affected by the smell, but the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman aren't. So they decide to pick up sleeping Dorothy and carry her out. On and on they walked, and it seemed that the great carpet of deadly flowers that surrounded them would never end. They followed the bend of the river, and at last came upon their friend the lion, lying fast asleep among the poppies. The flowers had been too strong for the huge beast, and he had given up at last and fallen only a short distance from the end of the poppy bed, where the sweet grass spread in beautiful green fields before them. "Oh, we can do nothing for him," said the Tin Woodman sadly, "for he's too heavy to lift. Oh, we must leave him here and sleep forever. Perhaps he'll dream that he found courage at last." "Oh, I'm sorry," said the Scarecrow. "The lion was a very good comrade for someone so cowardly. But let us go on." They carried the sleeping girl to a pretty spot beside the river, far enough from the poppy field to prevent her breathing any more of the poison from the flowers. And here they laid her gently on the soft grass and waited for the fresh breeze to waken her. So they laid her down outside of the poppy field. So this chapter was interesting because we actually lost two friends in the chapter. We first lost the Scarecrow when he got stuck in the river. Then we got him back, and then we lost the lion because the lion fell asleep in the poppy field and they just can't carry him out. So now let's look at the picture book and see where we left off. Here is a great picture of the poppy field. So you see here, they finally found the lion. The lion almost made it to the grass, but he fell asleep. And here you see the Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow. They made a chair with their arms for Dorothy, and they're carrying her and Toto while they sleep out of the poppy field. So these are the pictures from the book. Now, in the book, they just happen to walk into the poppy field, and they don't know anything about them. They happen to fall asleep. Now, in the movie, when you watch it, you're going to see it's very different. In the movie, the Wicked Witch actually shows up. Here's a picture of her. And she actually puts a spell on our four friends, Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the Tin Woodsman, and she makes the poppy field so that they will fall asleep on their way to the Emerald City. The Wicked Witch does not want them going to the Emerald City, so she's going to try to stop them. So in the movie, she makes the poppy field, but in the book, they just happen to walk into the poppy field. So you can definitely see that there are some differences. And they also call poppies scarlet. So I don't know if you've ever heard that color before. That is the color scarlet. It's actually, I believe, a crayon color. It's not quite red and it's not quite orange. It's very in between that. So when you hear the word scarlet, that's what it means. So that's where we're going to stop today. The next chapter, chapter 9, is called The Queen of the Field Mice. And chapter 9 actually has characters that do not show up in the movie. So that's why it's really important always to read the book and watch the movie, because there are some great parts in each. All right, well, thanks, kindergartners, and come back for chapter 9, and there is no place like home.